Awesome. A lot of people coming in from across the country. That's great.
Give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started.
Yeah. So while we're kind of waiting for everyone to get started, and everyone to kind of hop in, this is I think our third webinar. This is our second or third webinar we did together. We did one on the buyer consultation, working with home buyers. We did one before that on our listing process. So we're super excited to bring this content to you guys today. We have, John's story, blows my mind every time I hear it. So I'm super pumped to listen to that. And I think, hopefully you guys are going to see just some awesome ways that God has worked in all of our lives. So we're super pumped to bring that to you. If you guys are not in real estate, if anyone's not in real estate, raise your hand, because mostly realtors in here. Okay, cool. So it looks like Nita, only one joining. By the way, how are you, Nita?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Nita's
Nita.
The sweetest, most awesome lady on the planet. So
thank you.
So excited every time I get to see her. So mostly real estate professionals on the call today, and we'll have some people rolling in after, but we're just really excited to be with you guys. And today we're going to be talking a little bit just about spiritual principles and, the business and the failures and, the real authentic raw story, and kind of dive into how God, really helped us through that. So that it's going to be a really exciting time. We're right at 10:30. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. John, why don't you get started with, kind of going through the intro, and then we'll talk about why we're here.
Awesome. Yeah. First of all, I want to say hi, Autumn. Good to see your face. Haven't seen you in a while. Hi.
Hi, John.
Lorena.
You too.
Happy Friday, you guys. Lorena Mencia, I see you. Feel free to come on screen if you're up for it. So yeah, we're going to get started. There's more people coming in. Really good to see all of your beautiful faces, and thank you guys. So jumping right in, we live in a time where it's never been easier to create our own version of the American dream. I don't know about you guys, but when I got into real estate, that was one of the reasons I did, right? But with that and just the world, I mean, I think we could all agree that it seems like it's just getting busier and busier and busier. It's a crazy world out there. And more than ever, the opportunity to build out your own version of the American dream with social media and all these platforms being thrown at us, and ads and all of that. It's never been easier to be successful in life, in business. But with all of that, the journey can be, of figuring that all out, and the hustle, especially here in real estate, it could be confusing. It could be overwhelming. It can be lonely. I don't know about you guys, but I've had lots of, and I'm going to dive into it a little bit, but lots of moments in my real estate journey and prior to that where it could feel lonely. And so we're here this morning to share our story of brokenness and flourishing, in the hopes of giving you guys hope, offering tools, and ultimately, in giving you hope, helping you be excited about your future, about building out your own version of the American dream, or, or hopefully it'll be in alignment with ultimately living out what you were created to be and do on this planet in this short time that we call life. So Stephen, why don't you dive into a couple more things on that, and then what everybody can expect here as we dive into the bulk of this.
Definitely. So yeah, so two purposes why we're here. Number one, we want to share our stories because we want you guys to realize that you're not alone. Comparison is the thief of joy. And when you realize how messed up our paths were and how God just took us from, broke to building, you guys are going to feel encouraged and inspired and connected. And that's really what we want to foster here, is that connection. The second thing, we want to share with you the spiritual disciplines that you need to succeed in business and in life. And when you start to understand that business is a spiritual game, and if you've been fighting with, physical tactics, you're going to wonder why you're stressed and anxious and just overwhelmed all the time. So we're going to talk to you just about some of the spiritual principles we have. Whatever you believe, that's fine. We love you. We support you and encourage you. But we think if you apply these, it's really going to help increase your business and your life. So what you can expect, we're going to share the stories and what we learned. We're a group who respects everyone's individuality. So whatever your beliefs are, whatever your, whatever beliefs that you hold to be true, that is something that's, that we support, we love you, and we accept you. And we think that, as we share these with you, you'll probably get one or two things that we think could change your life today, not just your business, the way that you operate in your life. And I think you're really going to find that. And then at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. So we'll have about, 40, 45 minutes of content, and then we'll dive in the Q&A. What I really want to encourage you guys during this time is to keep a really, really open mind. And I'm going to start with a quote that really changed my life. And this was from the former CEO when I worked at Keller Williams Realty. His name's Gary Keller. Everybody knows him. He's an icon in the industry, one of the best of the best. And he said, people often get confused because they think they're having their physical beings having a spiritual experience. And he said, what they come to find out, and the day your life changes, is when you realize you're a spiritual being and you're having human experiences. And so we really want to help you guys kind of get involved in that and have that conversation about faith and what that looks like. And we have total confidence that God's going to move in this, or whatever you believe, something's going to move in this, and we're going to really come out stronger, more connected, and just thriving together. So with those purposes in mind, let's dive into John's story. John, tell us what God brought you through, the highs, the lows, and everything that you learned in that process.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. And thanks again, everybody here for joining us at this time. I know you guys are taking an hour out of your day, and this is great. Coffee at Starbucks, hanging out is a preference, but Zoom is the next best. So yeah, a little bit about my story. Going back to when I was going into adulthood. So I left home at 18 years old. I began my journey of life. In love and faith and trying to figure it all out. I leaped right into adulthood early, tried to figure it all out along the way. I ended up ultimately getting married to my best friend, and immediately faced challenges as I was trying to figure all of that out. And so some of the challenges that I started facing. So I got married back in 2010. I left San Diego. I left my hometown ultimately for the most part alone, but I was chasing adventure out to the hills of Big Bear. And at that time, my sister lived up in Big Bear, and so I was able to crash at her house. But ultimately, I was looking at college or not college, and I decided college wasn't for me, even though I was literally signing my name on the dotted line at one of the community colleges down in San Diego, and it didn't feel right. And that's another whole story for another day. But through a tremendous amount of anxiety and trying to decide what I wanted to do in life, and ultimately at the college while I was signing up for the quarter, I was so internally like anxious, like I wanted to vomit, right? And I was following everybody around for the orientation, and I pulled over into a closet, and I literally just started weeping. I couldn't take the overwhelm of the pressure that I was feeling inside. And ultimately what it came down to is like, God, speak to me. I don't know what I want to do in life. Everybody's telling me I got to go to college, but I don't know that I want to. And through literally a couple of hours, and probably everybody else thinking I was psycho weird, they didn't know where I was at, I feel like God gave me an answer. And it was like, move to Big Bear. So, and funny enough, 2 years prior, when my sister was begging me to move up here, I was like, it would take God to move me up to Big Bear. Fast back forward, it did take God to move me to Big Bear. I moved to Big Bear, and I was excited. I was tenacious. I had broken up with one of my girlfriends, and I was like so over the dating scene, and just hitting my head on a brick wall is what it felt like, trying to like make things happen. And so I departed on this journey of being alone and being alone with God in the mountains. So a couple of years went by, and oddly enough, I found contentment with not, dating. And long story short, I ended up meeting my best friend, who's now my wife. And like I said, we got married and then immediately jumped right in. We started having kids, and here's where the challenges started showing up. We decided to do things a little different. For us, I was going to be the sole provider, as my wife was having, all of a sudden starting to have kids, and so she started staying home. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, cool. I got to make this happen, and I'm going to own it. And now I'm starting to like live my version of the dream. Like, I always wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. So I started to get it, and I was grateful for that. But with it came a whole lot of unexpected scenarios. So starting to raise kids, trying to figure out how to provide for my family. I was literally broke. I got married with $1,000 in my bank account. No joke. I had family come together to help make a wedding happen. And that was humbling, but I was excited to marry my best friend. And, but I got married on like no money, and very quickly started to make mistakes based off of that. I did what I could with what I had, but a little bit of planning, maybe mentoring, I could have gone further, right? And not experienced so much pain. But that's where my story started to unfold. So I got to keep an eye on the time. I don't want to chat too much, but so raising children and trying to provide for the family. All of a sudden, my wife, started having postpartum depression, like serious depression. And so I'm like split focus, trying to provide, and we're broke, racking up debt like crazy. Nobody taught us how to manage money, and like one rental after the other, just being the crappiest, cheapest rentals. It was very humbling first handful of years. And all of a sudden, my second son came, and that was awesome, an answer to prayer. But with it, more on the plate of how to like try to figure things out. And all of a sudden I started seeing, experiencing fracturing within my marriage, because all of a sudden, like, I didn't know how to love, like nobody really taught me. I had the best examples I knew, which was my parents. And I think we could all relate that we come from probably dysfunctional families. But I had the mentality of, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to figure it out. And, through a tremendous amount of prayer, but very humbling time as I was doing the best I could to try to figure it all out. And then at the same time, fractures within my family. One of the things that I learned during that time, and I'll share, with you guys, just things that I learned through beating my head against the wall and trying to figure it out. Really, I began to realize that I didn't really know how to love. And that really bothered me a lot, because I cared so darn much, but I didn't know how to love my family in the way that I feel like they needed it. But I started praying for that, asking God to help me with it. And over time, through a few years, I started to learn, what at one point was just cliche to me. But I started to learn that love is patient, and it requires a tremendous amount of patience with myself. Like, if I can't love myself, I can't love my God. I can't love my wife and my kids. I can't love my customers. But through the process of just keeping my head up and down sometimes, like honestly, begging God, asking him for his help, I realized through that process that love is patient. We need to be patient with ourselves and with others, and the process. It's kind. We need to be kind with ourselves and with others. It also protects, like it doesn't give up. It's hopeful. And so I clung to that for years. I still cling to it. Today, I cling to it. And you never give up, right? And never give up on someone. So through all of a sudden, fast forward, Stephen, how am I doing on time, by the way?
You're doing good. You have about 13 minutes.
Cool. Okay, great. So then I, through the years, my kids are toddlers, and, trying to get through like some of the, trying to figure out the confusion of helping my wife in postpartum depression. Like there were days, literally, it was so bad, like, so, it was so hard that, I literally, I was preparing mentally to find her home dead one, like literally trying to like work through the psychology of supporting a family that I love, and preparing for the like emotionally and spiritually praying without like literally feeling helpless to be able to help her. Right. I didn't know how to, but that's where I continued to learn more about love. Through the confusion, I prayed desperately, and continue to learn about patience and trust, and hope. But even though I was learning it was tremendously hard, and it showed up again later, which I'll get to. So then I through some opportunities in the community, I ultimately went through fine dining and, God's blessing and like not having to use a resume, like at all, just getting recruited from one thing to the next. It was all good. And ultimately it landed me in real estate. I did get my license back in 2007 before the market crashed. I was excited I graduated early to get into real estate, and then the market crashed. Yay dreams. But I kept my eye on the ball, and I pivoted a little bit and I got out of it. It was hard. It was sad, but kept my eye on other dreams, and trusting that God had a plan for me. So fast forward to 2012, I got recruited out of the bank. Tim Wood, national renown, unfortunately passed away recently, but he, after a couple of attempts to recruit me, did end up recruiting me. I said, great, give me an offer I can't refuse. I just got married. It's perfect timing. Literally a few days ago, I was praying and asking God for something new because the bank wasn't cutting it, making like $25,000 a year. And so through just lots of prayer and like, honestly, just hard times, but seeing God come through, that gave me hope. Right. I got into real estate. I immediately was tenacious. I had no idea what I was doing. The mentorship that was promised to me, or the coaching that was promised to me, didn't come through. I was hitting the streets, just trying to figure it all out. Thankfully, I had a couple of friends that I was working alongside, still friends to this day, working alongside in the community in real estate. And I learned a ton just listening and watching, but nobody was really sitting down to just like help me, but that's okay. I kept going. It was really hard in the moment. And ultimately I got really discouraged and I was like, screw this. I want to get out of the real estate thing. So my friend, actually, Joey Anderson, John, you might know him. He's like, dude, you should get into real estate, or you should get into firefighting. I'm like, sure. Yeah. So I started like looking it up online, and I'm like, I remember back in the days when my friends were becoming EMTs. I'm like, nope, can't do blood. Well, fast forward, I decided I'll do it. I got my inner EMT certification. I got into like my foot in the door with firefighting as paid call, and literally same day as orientation, I got sucked back into real estate again. I got recruited by, I left my former brokerage all within this same time, jumped into Keller Williams, which became a really good spot for me to land, and same time got recruited by the top team in Big Bear at the time, and still top team in Big Bear. And I was still, I was stoked about that, coming out of a tremendous amount of discouragement, toxic environment at my former brokerage, getting burned out on real estate, trying to become a firefighter at the same time so I could do real estate as a side hustle. Ultimately, I was given a glimpse of hope, and I was grateful for that. And it became a really great opportunity. I worked with them for 4.5 years, continued to rise to success, became top producer on the team, and then in the community, doing lots of business. But all of that good started to get really tough. Making more money than I've ever made before. Never solved the problem of not knowing how to manage it. Making more money than ever, working way too much, literally 16 hours a day, every single day, at least 16 hours a day. And that's where the fracture really started to show up in my marriage. Making more money than ever and but building more debt than ever. It was a trip, and it was very discouraging, very frustrating. And it started to show up in our marriage, constantly having to tell my wife no. And it's so hard because it's like, you're trying to build a dream and you're saying, no, it's no to the kids, no to everybody. And meanwhile, trying to keep your head up and keep making the money that you don't know how to manage. Right. And that was me. Right. And then our time was just getting consumed like crazy. I didn't have any work-life balance, and continued to get in fights with my wife, and kids starting to feel it, even though they were toddlers. And it broke my heart because the very people I was building my America, my version of the American dream around was the people that I ultimately prayed for since I was a kid. I wanted to be a husband at a young age, wanted to be a father at a young age. And now I have a blessing that I don't even know how to manage. my wife, my kids, my business. And my life started to feel like it was falling apart. I'm smiling, but inside right now, as I think about it, it was very hard. Um, and so along the way, like my passion was helping people. I came from the service industry, restaurants and banking, and so trying to keep my head up, stay positive, and help people, and seek my God. But it was not easy. And so ultimately, I ended up buying a house, and that was awesome. Started to make, the year of massive success for me. I was top of my game, bought a house. And but in the meantime, my family felt like it was falling apart. I was falling apart. And keeping the highlight reels on Facebook and social media coming, right? But yeah, then things started to change, as I started to just humble myself and, like really just beg God for his help. I started to focus on, what I could control, just day by day, trying to figure out what that even meant, and started nurturing our relationship with time. I told my team, which nobody on the team was taking a day off. I said, I'm taking Sundays off, have fun, take the business, whoever wants it. I'm not working anymore on Sundays. So fast forward to today, I've worked maybe 3 Sundays in 6 years, 7 years, whatever that number is. And that helped a lot. What I learned through that season is adversity is a gift. I mean, you guys, if you follow me on social media, you might see stuff like that pop up from time to time. That is where the quotes are coming from, is through tremendous seasons of tremendous hardship. But God, by the grace of God, realizing that adversity is a gift, I started looking at it from a different angle. I'm like, wow, I can appreciate this. It's an opportunity to gain deeper understanding, richer relationships. It's helping me somehow, by the grace of God, helping me figure out how to love my wife and my customers and my friends. And it was all of a sudden he's answering my prayers through adversity. It was a trip. So I started to appreciate that and see it as a gift. And helping me dive in deeper in my relationship with God, through the anxiety and the casting my cares on him and all of that, and trusting that he's got my back and my future. And there's tremendous amount of faith in that. There's times where I felt like I was going to lose that faith, where I wanted to give up over, and like almost every year I've been in real estate, I've wanted to give up, by the way, this year included. But getting to see the delight in the season as I get on the other side of those seasons and realizing adversity is a gift. So anyways, I began to experience healing in our marriage, began to get help on financing. I signed up for Financial Peace University. And in fact, actually I was so broke, making $275,000, right, that year that I was broke, and had to borrow $100 from my mom to make it to Financial Peace University. That's how bad it was. It was bad. But I started to get help, and that was a tremendous amount of help for me and my wife in that season. It brought us in alignment, which I'd been praying for years, and all of a sudden, like Dave Ramsey was somehow able to pull it off and bring my wife and I in alignment in our thinking. And all of a sudden we started like paying off debts and building wealth. And that sounds great, but in the midst of all of it, it was very, very difficult. So that's where I began to start getting hope and my dream, like began to dream again. When I was a kid, I dreamed all the time. And then I lost it in adulthood. I started to lose it once I became, husband and father. So I wanted to build a team and, build a business. And here's where it got crazy. In all my dream pursuing, I sold my house. I reinvested our money. We moved out of state. Another story for another day. Long story, painful story, powerful story. But I reinvested that into. We moved out of state. I gave all of my business away, and my wife and I, we both started, as we were dreaming, we came up with these ideas, and it landed us in Arkansas next to her family. And very quickly, it didn't work out. Joy's health started, my wife's name is Joy. Her health started declining so rapidly. Another story for another day, but tremendous amount of confusion. It's like, I'm looking forward, and all of a sudden I'm having to look in I can't concentrate because I'm so confused. We both were very, very hard. Her mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health was declining so rapid. I was so confused, and my heart was starting to break as I was trying to like get answers from God. And a couple of weeks later, he gave me the answer, and it came down to love. And I humbled myself. We moved back to California, which when I was leaving, I said I would never come back, and moved back to California, and had a tremendous amount of social trauma. That's another story for another day. A whole heck of a lot of emotional trauma due to trying to figure out how to support my family, starting over, blowing through most of our money that we had just made on our sale, and starting a business from scratch. But I decided with her support too, decided that it was, you know what, staying positive. This is my time to build that team I said I would build. And so anyways, we started doing that and ultimately getting her surgery. And then my son had as I'm building my business, son had a really hard, really bad accident. I wasn't sure if he was going to, I didn't know what was going to happen. He was crushed by a gun safe that fell on him, broke his femur in 4 places. The doctor literally was like, last person I helped with this last kid, he died. I don't know why he had felt the need to tell me that while my son was getting, they were trying to figure it all out. So all this is happening in 2019. And while I'm building my business and starting a team with I was at Keller Williams still, nobody was showing me how to do it. And then it got crazier. Like all of a sudden my business is thriving, and then it crashes to a screeching halt when it comes to a screeching halt when COVID hit. And I hit depression for about a month in prayer and desperation. I had racked up $250,000 in medical bills, didn't have insurance to pay for it. And had over $60,000 in new debt. And I was desperate. I was literally broken. I've never been so broken. And that's why it's like, I can't not tell my story and not talk about God. I don't know what your beliefs are, but God has been, when I've been my loneliest, God has been the one that has come through for me every time. And I literally gave God an ultimatum. This is how bad it was. Before COVID hit, January 2020, my wife had surgery, son had surgery, 2019 craziness. And I said, God, where are you? Like, I'm like literally so mad. Like I seem calm, cool, and collected right now. I was fists in the air, so frustrated, love him because he's been there for me, but also starting to doubt. And I'm like, either you come through for me because I have such a God-sized hole in my life, or I'm going to go do it myself. I'm going to get 3 jobs because that's all I know what to do. I'm going to work. I know how to work. And then COVID hit. I started to do better in business, and then COVID hit. And then I lost hope again. And same thing, prayer like crazy. And I woke up one day with new peace. And I literally felt like God was like, I'm bringing you a harvest. Go to work. I worked my ass off. And my wife said she felt the same peace. And she's like, yeah, go to work. And then, building the business and all that, it's been, I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to turn it over to Steven here. But what I learned through that, and there's so much more to talk about here. It's hard to cover it all, but I learned that adversity, it makes you stronger. So if you see my posts on it, I know it looks like highlight reel and cliches. This is where it's coming from. Adversity makes you stronger. Progress, not perfection. My team, Ben is here. Hi, Ben. He hears me say that all the time. Progress, not perfection. And I started to really believe what I believed to be true. God's not done with me yet. His thoughts are way higher than mine, and I should learn to lean into that. Trust it. Trust the system. Right? Life doesn't always make sense in the moment, but when I stop walking alone and walking with God, when I stop walking alone and start walking with God again, every time I do that, I can see clearly. I can see the bigger picture, and then things somehow work together for my good. And through all of this process, I realized that He's my number one partner in self-development. And so, final thoughts on that. Continue to learn along the way. His way is best, 100% guaranteed. And even in the last couple of days, I've been wrestling with just my mindset. And so this is all good for me to hear again, coming out of my own mouth. But what changed? My mindset. Really started to focus on and lean into God. Really started to choose my friends wisely and not hang around all the negative. I started shutting off the news. I haven't listened to the news in a long time. Books and seminars and Financial Peace University, and just doing all of that and giving it to God, and He's somehow been working it all out. And then I changed my environment. I started to realize as I was rising to success, people started getting jealous, and there was toxicity and skepticism, and I realized the environment I was in was not very helpful for me, and I outgrew my environment, and that's ultimately what led me to EXP. And I watched it for a year before I decided to take the leap, and I jumped in with my friends, and I realized, it's an amazing brokerage. But I realized, most importantly, what it comes down to is running with like-minded people that are also going to help you get to where you want to go, and that you can help get them to where they want to go. So through that, I just, more than ever, I believe what my mom tried to get me to believe when I was a kid. Who you hang out with is who you're going to be like. I choose my friends wisely, as iron sharpens iron. So a friend sharpens a friend. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and you get in trouble. And I've done plenty of that too. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Steven.
Awesome, man. Well, wow. What a mic drop on that one. I don't really want to follow that act, but can you guys see his heart? Raise your hand if you can see his heart as he's sharing this, right? This is a very genuine story. And what we're seeing in this is that, notice how John has incredible results, right? He closed 57 sales last year, makes over $750,000 a year. He's a total badass, right? And yet he's telling you guys that he's struggling. He's going through uncertainty. He's going through ups and downs. He's having to rely on God. He's having to humble himself, right? And so, I think that this story we can all relate to, because we think success is supposed to be this linear path, right? It's, shouldn't it just always be going up? And God says, no, like, I'm always going up, but like, sometimes I'm going to be carrying you, right? Even if you're kicking and screaming, I'm going to be carrying you. So John, thank you so much for sharing your heart in that. So as we transition to that, I think my story is similar and different. And so it's going to be really cool to kind of walk you guys through that journey. So it all started for me, it was my life before God. So that was, when I was born to 17 years old. So I was a self-proclaimed atheist. I was lost. I was hopeless. I struggled in school. I was angry all the time. I was angry. And, I really didn't know why I was here, what I was supposed to do. And it was a really, really, challenging time for me. It felt like every day was just on repeat. I was getting up, going to school and struggling and dealing with everything just to, kind of go to bed and do it all over again. Right. So I just felt totally hopeless. That's when, as I transitioned to the next phase of my life, that's when I learned the spiritual principle number 1. I'm going to give you guys 5. And number 1 is, recognize that life and business are not physical, they're spiritual. If you don't understand why you're here and who made you and what they made you for, you're going to have a really, really hard time on earth. And, think about this for a second. There's 7, maybe 8 billion people on earth floating on a big round ball of gas, right? Like, that's what's happening right now. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen someone walk up and create something out of nothing? No, nothing is the absence of something, right? It's the absence of matter, right? And so you don't just get 7 billion people floating on a circulating round globe of gas. Like, that doesn't just accidentally happen. It was created. And so one thing you have to ask yourself is, why am I here? What is my purpose here? Who put me here? And what does that person want me to do? And when you really start to understand your life's purpose and you ask those big questions, because we're all asking ourselves questions. Some of us are asking, how can I pay my bills this week? The questions you need to be asking yourself is, who's in charge here? And what does that person want from me? So that was my spiritual principle number 1. And I'm going to show you how God smacked me in the face with the humble stick and really helped me learn that principle. So 17 years old, I was lost. I was hopeless. I was broken. And what did I turn to? Did I turn to God? No, I turned to drugs. I smoked pot every single day. It's funny, as I recently sold my home. I bought my dream home when I was 29 years old, got my pool, got my backyard, got everything I wanted. And I was so proud of it. But when I was 17 years old, I used to smoke pot in the parking lot that I drove by on my way into my new house. And so that was the journey that God took me on. So I was hopeless. I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to numb the pain. So I turned to drugs. That doing drugs eventually turned into selling drugs. I sold it to my friends. I sold it to people at school. I always had a business mindset, right? I wanted to make a little bit of money from it. So I was selling drugs. I got caught. And during that process of getting caught, I got arrested. And I went to Juvenile Hall. Now, I didn't get arrested for doing drugs. My parents sent me to kind of a military school thing to where I, was supposed to really learn and work that out in myself. And I ended up getting into a fight with a counselor and, hurting them pretty badly. And, during that time, I got arrested. They put me in handcuffs. They put me, in the back of the car. The cop looks me in the eyes and he says, if you try to do anything to me, I'm going to pull over and I'm going to beat the living hell out of you where no one can see. That's when I realized, oh my God, like this is not the life I want, right? Like this is not what God has for me. So while I was in Juvenile Hall, I was told I could be there as long as 5 years. Apparently during this time, there was a lot of kids getting into fights into these kind of military schools that they were going to. And so they were trying to make political examples of children and punish them the highest extent that they could. So they said, hey, you could be here for 5 years potentially. Long story short, there's a church service in Juvenile Hall and they tell you, hey, if you can get out of your cell tonight if you go to church service. Let me tell you something. If they tell you can get out of your cell, you do whatever you can to get out of your cell. It doesn't matter if you're knitting sweaters, right? Like you want to get out, right? So I go to the church, the pastor puts his hand on me. He looks me in the eyes and says, I can see God working in you. I can tell God has a plan for your life. I was like, whatever you say, weirdo, like this is, get your hand off me. I'm not into that kind of stuff with pastors, right? I thought it was kind of weird. I wasn't into it. And so, but he was very genuine and he said, hey, I think that God has a plan for your life. Here's a Bible. He gives me a Bible. I go into my cell that night and I say, this is where I bargained with God. Okay. I didn't do an authentic prayer. I wish I said I had this great character, but I was like, God, I won't lie for 1 year. If you get me out of here, I'll just 1 year after that, I'm going to lie, right? I'm human, but 1 year, Lord, if you get me out of here, I'll stop smoking weed. I'll stop doing everything. And I will not lie, right? Put the Bible down, go to sleep. Next day I wake up, boom, get a call from my dad. Son, you won't believe it. I was at the grocery store last night. I bumped into a guy, dropped my groceries. He says he's a lawyer who's best friends with the district attorney who's overseeing your case. I hired him. You're going to be out in 45 days. No problem. Whoa. God's moving here. God's in charge. Holy crap. I can go from potentially 5 years to 45 days. Yes, absolutely. But son, you got to change your life because if you get out and you do this stuff again, I'm not going to be there to bail you out. So you got to make a decision right now. Awesome. Follows through. The guy's best friends with the district attorney. I get out of Juvenile Hall. I get my record expunged. I'm on house arrest. But as soon as that's over, everything changes in my life. Everything. I never, wanted to do drugs. I never wanted to do anything. I committed to honesty. You saw a change from the inside out. By the way, that's a side note spiritual principle. It's God working in you when it's a change from the inside out, not from the outside in. So my heart just didn't want these things anymore. Why? Because you're going to have pain, but when you have someone that's comforting you and helping you and giving you support and guidance, that pain is a lot less. And when you have a purpose, the purpose helps through the pain. So this is when the chains were really broken free from mine. I came back and all of my friends that I normally hung out with, I was like, you guys, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want the party scene. I've got a mission from God and I'm ready to take that mission to the world. So, that brought me to spiritual principle number 2. That is, you don't have to pray perfectly. You don't have to pray perfectly. You see, God fixes your prayers on the way up to him, right? I didn't have to say, God, please do this, please do that. Why? Because he's omnipresent. He's always there. He's omniscient. He's all knowing. He's all powerful. He knew what I needed. I don't need to come with some perfect, Lord, let me sacrifice 7 sheep. Let me do it the right way. Let me clean myself. No, God's like, dude, I created you, dummy. Just tell me what you want. Doesn't have to be perfect. And he fixed my prayer on the way up. You just need to pray with humility and he will guide you. He will guide you. So that was the second spiritual principle I learned. My prayers don't have to be perfect. Now, when I'm on the way to a listing appointment, I'm not saying, God, do this, do that. Lord, you know what's going on. I'm worried about not connecting with this person. I've got transactions. Lord, just give me the power to make it through it and show me, help me with the next step. Help me with the next phone call. Give me power to be kind to this person. And that's what I really learned through that season. So that kind of brought me to my journey in real estate because my journey started very young. I started when I was 19 years old. You see, I'm a third generation realtor. Everyone in my family is in real estate. My sister is an escrow. My brother-in-law is a realtor. My mom's a realtor. My dad's a lender. My stepdad was a broker. My stepmom was a lender. Every single person, builders, title reps. It's like, dear God, like, can I do something else? No, right? Because that's what was the only path for me. So I get out of high school. I start studying real estate. I see my family's success in real estate. I see that they're buying investment homes. They're traveling. They're having a good time. It's the recession. And I get it in my thick little skull. Hey, I'd like to throw my ring in the hat, right? I'm tenacious. I'm persistent. I'm hardworking. I'll keep my commitments. Let me give this business a shot, right? Great idea, right? So I thought. So that was 2009. So during that time, I was introduced to a different model. A lot of people come in and they like to be the solo agent. I never wanted to be the solo agent. I always wanted to be on a team. Number one, I didn't have any kids, so it's not like that 50%, it was like easier for me to give that up because I had the support and the leads of a team, right? So I always wanted to be the team guy. Plus, I love people. I love connecting and coaching, and that was always my thing. So I didn't want to start solo. I wanted to start on a team. So I worked on various teams up until the point where I launched my own. But my story wasn't a success story. My story was a failure and stepping stone story. So you hear a lot of people, they come in, they're like, I got my license 3 months ago. I made $3 billion. I bought a Ferrari. I'm retired. Check out this course I'm going to sell you for $9,000 a month, right? It's like, cool, good for you. Like you can walk on water. That was not my story. My story, I spent too much money on shiny objects. I bought all the leads. I changed my strategy every 3 months. I ignored my past clients. I signed up for every coaching plan you could think of. I got into a ton of debt, a lot of debt. Raise your hand if you've ever felt the weight of a lot of debt. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million. When you're in debt, you're walking around like this. You're stressed, you're anxious, right? That's how I was feeling. Now, let me give you a little secret. When you're feeling that way and you project that energy, do you think clients are attracted or deferred by that kind of personality, right? They're deferred. They don't want that. They want someone who shows up in abundance and confidence. So I had that weight going on inside of me. It got so bad at one point, I had to leave real estate for a year to get a real job that was W-2. And I was humiliated in front of all of my peers. I had various levels of success. I was great at scripts. I was great at so many things, but I actually had to step back from the business because I needed to pay my bills. And I remember I talked to 2 of my mentors and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills this month. And they're like, dude, you need to man up. Like you've got bills to pay. You got to go get a job until you can circle back. And so I got out of the industry. And, what was so crazy, what happened during that time is that I worked for a company where I learned all these skills that I didn't have that I really needed to be successful in real estate. So I thought at the time, God, why are you doing this? Why are you taking me out of real estate? Why are you humbling me? Why are you making me go through this? And then I go through here and I learn all these different technologies, these customer service strategies, the search engine optimization. I mean, I just get a first-class education and some real things that kind of changed my life and my business. So fast forward to the end of that, that's when I learned spiritual principle number 3. And that is this: sometimes God makes you take a step back so that you can take 3 steps forward, right? Have you ever been through that where you feel, see, again, we think success is linear. We're like, God, why is not everything going up? But no, success is like the stock market. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, right? But in the end, if you follow the principles, it's always up. So in summary, on that point, sometimes God makes you take that step back so you can take a few steps forward. There's a Bible verse, Romans 8:28. It said, God causes all things to work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So even when sometimes feel bad, this is where that spiritual perspective comes in. I reminded myself every day, God, this is actually a good thing. Hey, my attitude should be great while I'm here because you're the one plotting out the course. Why am I so concerned that I'm in chapter 1? I haven't even read chapter 3 yet, right? So just remember that if you're in a place where you're taking a step back, God might be pulling you back like a slingshot because you might be about to take off. And that's pretty much what happened. Here's what changed for me. I got really serious about what we know as business modeling. Business modeling is when you look at somebody who has results, you find their recipe. So this is the success formula. The 3 steps to achieve any goal. You find someone who has the results you want. You find their recipe, and then you apply their recipe. Okay, if you take out an ingredient, you also take out a result. So watch this. Does anybody here enjoy baking? Anybody here enjoy cooking or baking? Wow, a lot of more bakers than I thought here. I'm going to be honest about that. So everybody here loves baking. I enjoy eating the cakes, not so much making them, in case that isn't obvious. So with that being said, if you tell me, if you have a cake that you really enjoy making and you give me the recipe and I say, you know what, I like this cake, but I'm not a fan of flour. How do you think that cake's going to come out? It's going to be terrible, right? And yet this is what we do when we reach out for advice in real estate. Hey, how'd you get that listing? Oh, you cold called? Oh, well, I could never cold call, right? Like, it's like, well, that's what I did. Like, you need to do that, right? So I got really serious about business modeling. So that's part of, my journey in joining EXP. And that's not what this is about, but that was the opportunity for me. There were 7 people that made money every time I made money that sold a ton of real estate. Kyle Whistle, Daniel Beer, they sell over 1,000 homes a year. And they said, hey, if you join, you join with us, we will give you every single thing in our playbook. You get to be part of our private masterminds. You get to come to our events, and we will coach you and mentor you. And that was how I went from 90,000 a year in income 2020, when I finally left the team, to 800,000 a year this year, while working the same amount of hours. That's how you have a quantum leap, is you get into a relationship with somebody that has the results you want, and some way you align yourself with them. That's the fastest way to growth. There's no other faster way. If there was, trust me, I'm lazy. I would try to figure it out, right? Like, I would try to figure it out, but that's the fastest way. So if you want better health, what do you got to do? You need to align yourself with someone who's healthy. They need to make something when you make something, not financially, but they need to get some fruit when you get some fruit, right? Or if you want a better relationship, you got to find someone who has your ideal husband. And then you got to go talk to that person, say, how did you attract that kind of guy? How do you treat that kind of guy? What do you do? And then you get the recipe, right? And a lot of times, this is a lot more simple than it sounds, but it's really humbling. And that's the key here. You got to humble yourself, right? You got to realize you're a student, and that's when growth really happens. So that was the 4th spiritual principle I learned, is that believe God puts people in your life for a reason. Be humble and be curious, and try to learn from others who have what you want. When you see somebody walking by you with a great body, you should be like, that is outstanding. It is so hard to eat healthy. That is outstanding. I wonder how that person got that body. I'm really curious. Hey, mister, just kidding. Don't say, hey, mister, right? Want to make sure you guys are still with me here, but you really want to learn from them as much as you can, right? Some of the ladies are like, oh, hey, mister. Okay. That's the strategy. So that's spiritual principle number 4. So this is how what changed for me is, number 1, I got serious about business modeling. Number two, I got really serious about getting in the room with the right people. I am so selective in who I spend my time with, who I have relationships with. So this is my hack. A month in advance, I ask myself, who energizes me? And I list my friends who energize me and my business associates, and I put them in my calendar. I reach out to them. When can we get lunch? When can we get together? Can I come up and visit you? Can we do this or that? And then I put who de-energizes me, who takes away from me. And then I will look at that person and I will say, hey, what's my escape plan if this person tries to hang out? Because I am not, life is precious, life is short, and there is so much going on in the news and the media, and I pay attention to all of it. I unlike John, I'm like deep into it. I want to know the facts. I want to get educated. And you know what? I don't want to spend time with people who are negative because there's just too much of that stuff around. So summarizing, this is when the rocket really took off for me. And this is the last spiritual principle. The rocket really took off for me was when, I really decided to align myself with the people who, with the people who have what I wanted. And for me, and this is not about EXP, but for me, that journey was EXP, because one single reason, this is the only reason I ended up joining a different company. And this was the opportunity that God gave me, was that 7 people now made money every time I made money. Kyle Whistle sells 500 homes a year. Daniel Beer sells 725 homes a year. Jay Kinder, Michael Reese, the founders of the National Association of Expert Advisors. All of these people who are mega millionaires make money when I make money. And the invitation was, hey, if you join, or anyone that you get to join, they get access to all of our stuff. And so that's when, for me, things changed, because I just needed the tools. I had the motivation, I had the mindset, but I didn't have insight into someone else's business. No top producers were like, hey, want to see my listing presentation? Hey, want to find out how I get my leads? Hey, would you like to see my marketing? No, they're like, go away, right? I don't want to share anything with you. You're my competition. So that leads me to the last spiritual principle, which is your plans for success are what you get. Your God's plans for your success are what you give. If I were to peel back the onions in your life and peel back the heart, your plans for success are probably, God, I want to be debt free. God, I want to make more money. I want to have an investment home. I want to have security in my future. I want Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or better health or this. They're all about what I want. But God's plan for your success is about what you can give. And at this stage in my career, all the people that have followed me in EXP, the best part of my day is getting text messages from them, like Annika, who just joined up with us, last week. Hey, I'm with you guys for 1 week. I sent my first buyer consultation. The clients want to work with me. Your buyer consultation process worked perfectly. Thank you so much. Like, that is so much more fulfilling than an extra sale, because an extra sale benefits me. But you know what? We love to give. And the more we poured our heart out, the more we actually feel fulfilled and whole. And so remember this, your plan for success is what you want. But once you get what you want, remember that God's plan for success is what you give. So with that being said, I'm going to finish it with this quote that I started with. Okay, so remember this and let this really sink into your soul. The biggest mistake people make is that they think they are human beings having a spiritual experience. But your life changes the day you recognize that you're a spiritual being, you're a spirit, and you're having a human experience. And that's from Gary Keller, the founder of KW. So I hope everybody really, really enjoyed this. I hope everyone enjoyed the content. We're gonna transition into an invitation and then a little bit of a Q&A. So John, why don't you kind of take it over from here? And I think you're on mute, John.
Again, hey, Lachette, again, raise your hand if you guys found any of that encouraging. Cool. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your story, Stephen. That's awesome, man. So we're going to kind of open it up for a little Q&A. If you guys have any questions, we're going to get to that here in a moment. Before we do that, if anybody is interested, I mean, people are always asking Stephen and I, why'd you guys, switch over to EXP? What's that all about? Can I learn more? So more and more, we're starting to open up opportunity for people to learn about EXP. And so if any of you guys are interested in learning why we ultimately made the jump to in brokerages, and you want to dive deeper into that, Stephen and I are going to hold a Zoom meeting next Friday at 10:30 a.m. And we'll dive deeper into the EXP family and our value proposition if you choose to align yourself with us. So a couple things, if you guys decide to, RSVP and, for that, Stephen, where can they find that?
So we just dropped this link in the chat, John. So the link's in the chat. The webinar's the same time next Friday at 10:30 a.m. And would you mind if I kind of go over some of the things that we have to offer if they do join?
100%.
Beautiful. So 6 value propositions you're going to get if you guys do end up joining. And by the way, it's a super soft, here's the model. If anyone's interested, cool, reach out. If you're not, we will not promise not contact you again unless you're interested. So it's a very soft sell, and you guys will really appreciate it. You'll get, if you guys do end up joining, whoever signs up and registers right now, so you have to pre-register right now for next week, you get my entire listing system in a video, explained in a video. So I explain my customer experience, the gifts that go out, how I qualify offers. Just that video alone, I promise you, I've been in this business 13 years. I know some incredible people. My listing process is bulletproof. You will literally get so much value out of that video. It'll blow your mind. So that is one thing that you'll get. You'll also get my wine and paint night playbook. So client events are the thing now, right? So here's my playbook for how I host a wine and paint night. You'll also get my family photo day paint night. So I invite all my clients. I get a professional photographer. I think, Tina is actually one of my clients on this call. So she's a client who's been to that. She's appreciated that. So she's clapping right now. And I promise I'll Venmo you $5 for clapping. Thank you so much. And so, that is one great way to get business. And then you'll also get my 36-page objection handler manual. So all the scripts, all the mistakes I've made, don't make the same ones. Like, I'll just give you the playbook, say these to clients, and I promise you, your influence will go through the roof. John, there's 2 other things there that you included as well.
Yeah. So I'm also offering my transaction and money management system spreadsheet. So when I finally started to figure things out and how to get out of debt, I started creating a spreadsheet that I could track all of my transactions, and I created a process out of it. So every time that I deposit a check, every time I receive a check when I close a sale, I have a process, and a percentage of it goes to giving and to taxes and to savings and to my business account and to investments and to my next property purchase. And with the compound effect, as you make more sales, you could actually see tangibly how much you are putting towards all of those accounts and ultimately building your wealth, right? So very easy to follow a spreadsheet that I spent hours and hours and hours and hours creating, and I'll give it to you for free. John, and then another thing too is I love power hours. Most of us don't have a ton of time to go get lots of mentoring or coaching or seminars. Those are awesome too. I'm a big fan, but I love power hours, and so I'm offering a 1-hour power hour, for a buyer seller, market skills training and strategy session. If you're interested. So
Awesome. Cool. You guys, let me just level with you, because I know that everybody is like, everyone and their mother is working at EXP or recruiting or whatever, just like everyone's a realtor, right? And so had I had these things that were just offered to me in the beginning of my career, my life would be looking a lot different right now. I would not be on a Zoom call. I'd be on a jet. Like that's what can change when you have access to all the tools you need. Right? Like that's what can change in your life. And that's what changed in mine and John's life, is that once we got access, then it was like, cool, I'm already motivated. I'm already hardworking. I'm ready to go. Just tell me what the heck I need to do. Right. But it's so different when you go behind the curtain. Like our mentor, Daniel Beer, who we signed up under, we got to visit his office where he sells 725 homes. That was life-changing. Like that, you can't unsee that operation, right? And so hope everyone found some value in that. Hope, for any of you that feel in your heart, you might want to join us next week. Would love to see you guys there. But back to the topic, does anybody have any questions or any comments on some of the stuff that we discussed today? And remember to unmute yourselves.
Anybody going through anything? I mean, we're all realtors here, right? This should be a safe, Nita, hi. This is a safe environment, should be. That's the culture that Stephen and I surround ourselves with and try to nurture. So feel free, feel comfortable to be vulnerable if you guys have any needs, right? Anybody have any needs? Anything specifically in your business right now, or your life, or your marriage, or finances that you're going through that you could use a tool on today? It doesn't let me unmute. Tina, let's see where you at, Tina. Should be in the bottom left corner. Or Stephen, can we, follow up. Okay, cool. Stephen, can you unmute Tina on your end when she's up? Andrew, you're needing help with follow up, right? Feel free to unmute yourself, Andrew. And is there something specifically on follow up that you're struggling with?
No, it's phone calls. As far as first sale by owners, just general follow up.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll share a couple of things that I do to, to keep me, one, to keep me engaged in follow up, and then two, consistent, and then two, a way to do it authentically. Okay, would that be helpful, Andrew? Cool. And then Stephen can speak into it a little bit more on calls and the open house and stuff. So as far as things that I do, I try to keep it really simple. And I have an iPhone. Andrew, you have an iPhone too, don't you? Yeah. So hey Siri, remind me to follow up with Andrew tomorrow at 9 a.m. And Siri, and sometimes like if I'm worried about maybe missing that reminder, Siri, remind me tomorrow at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. or 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. to follow up with Andrew. So that's one example that, I'll use technology simply to just remind me.
What to say. For example, like I sent out listening to leads a letter. So they said they scanned my little QR code. They're curious about the value. Now they didn't leave their email address because they're not that committed yet.
Yep.
So how do you follow up with them?
Stephen, are you using QR codes?
Yes, I've done that before. I'm not currently doing it. Great way to follow up with them is to prepare a package. So if it's an online valuation, so prepare a package with a market report, comparable sales, and one-page bio on you. And then go and deliver that to their door, knock on their door, and just say, hey, I'm Stephen Hurd with eXp Realty. You submitted a valuation for your home online. I was in the area. I just wanted to drop off some information. By the way, while I'm here, did you have any questions? So that one, because you don't have their email, if you have their phone, do you have their phone?
So let's say I do have their email, not from them, but through other sources, I can get their email. What would you do?
Do you have their phone number?
Simple. Yeah, I can get it.
Okay. So I'd go for their phone number. The likelihood of you converting them on email is probably 5%, maybe 3%.
Would you send like HomeBot or something?
You could send HomeBot. My point is that it's not likely to convert them to an appointment. What I would try to do is get their phone number, and I would just call them and say, hey, Stephen Hurd, local realtor in the neighborhood. I recently, sold a home down the street. I'm calling all the neighbors. I wanted to see at what price would you consider selling? Really simple.
I was just curious. I'm not really interested in selling.
Awesome. Just curious. Hey, I get it. Just trying to get a value for your home, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I did go ahead and send you that valuation. So that's in your email. I'm curious, when was the last time you guys thought of moving?
Never. A couple of years ago, maybe.
Never, a couple of years ago. So it sounds like really not a lot of plans, but just kind of just keeping an eye on the market.
Yeah.
if we had somebody that was, let's say, a cash buyer and you could sell your home off market, would you be open to an offer on your home, or is there just no thought of selling?
Do you have a cash buyer?
I do. Yeah, I've got currently 15 investors in my database right now that would probably write you a strong cash offer. You wouldn't even have to put your home on the market.
Yeah, no, not right now.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and stay in touch with you, Andrew. Sounds like right now is really not the right time for you. I'll keep you updated on the market and we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. So that's probably, with the online leads, that's probably 98% of how the calls will go. Like they're not ready right now. And this is the mindset that you really have to break, is like, if everybody was right now, could you imagine how rich we'd all be?
Mhm.
Right? Like nobody is right now. That's the like struggle in our lives, right? Is like 90% or more of the business I do is somebody that contacted me last year. Right? And so with this person, I would reach out every month and I would say, hey, just wanted to keep you updated. 3 homes have sold in your community in the last month. It looks like prices are heading up at this point. Just wanted to see if you guys had any real estate related questions. So the more you stay in touch with them, the more familiarity they'll get. I'm also going to drop you guys in the chat box right now my entire 33 touch program. So you guys can see all the text messages, emails, scripting that I use for buyers. I don't currently have one for sellers that's documented and shareable, but you know, that's everything that I use for buyers.
It's awesome. Thanks, Stephen.
Tina, you're, I'm sorry, I gave everyone the unmute capabilities back. Are you still here, Tina?
Yes, sorry, my phone's dying, so I'm looking for a charger. But my question is, so as I move, first off, thank you for putting yourself out there and telling your story. That's sometimes hard for a lot of people to talk about, you know, their downs and their ups and things like that. So one thing I find is I am a believer and I'm really close to God. As I move on, I feel like things are happening in my life where people, like things are shifting, where people that are believers like me and like-minded, like I feel like they're kind of coming out of nowhere, which is awesome. Because when I find someone negative, I can't be around them, especially because real estate's hard and I don't need anyone negative because you'll bring me down. So I guess my question is, when the days are really hard and you feel like, you know what, like, I don't want to get up out of bed, I don't want to call this person, you know, what do you do? What do you tell yourself in that moment to stay motivated?
Stephen, can I speak into that?
Yeah, I was going to say, John he came ready for this one.
So Tina, really good question. Just late last night, I reached out to Stephen and I said, dude, I need you to pray for me. I rarely ask people to pray for me. But I was, and this morning it was really still like, I'm still going through it. And what's interesting is, and specifically what I'm talking about is hitting burnout, you know, in the journey of continuously trying to like balance life and work-life balance, which is a good thing. I'm personally in that space again. And I was telling Stephen last night, I'm like, I'm about to share this with everybody and I'm going through it again, like in a different way. Feeling, and I know that my face maybe doesn't show it. I'm usually a generally smiley guy. But I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it this morning. And for me, I woke up at 4 a.m. and immediately threw in some worship music in my ear. I have some playlists that has got me through some really hard times that I specifically put together for those hard times. And so music, I was reminded this morning that for me, music really helps me. I used to be a worship leader at church for many years. And funny enough, every single time I go to serve someone in a manner like this, I will get depressed the night before or the morning of. Last night, I was if you saw me at my dinner table, I'm like a zombie looking at my family, right? And I was, every last ounce of me, to love, I was giving them. But I was just quite frankly feeling burnt. I have been. I just got back from vacation, and I was hitting burnout on vacation. So the journey is ongoing. Just because I talked about it doesn't mean that my life is all put back together again. You know, like, it's not the highlight reel you see on Facebook or social media. So to answer your question, what do I do? You know, living by principle, like Stephen talked about. I have certain practices, and sometimes it like, you know, it requires a tremendous amount of patience. So what my practices are is, even when I am depressed and I want to go to sleep for a few days, the principles that I live by is get as low as you can, as fast as you can. I heard somebody say that a while back, many years ago, like 15 years ago, and it's just become part of my mental lingo. John, get as low as you can, as fast as you can. And what does that look like for me? What it's looked like actually all morning for me, which is like in between appointments, running and getting cable boxes out of my house or my sale that I just closed on. And I'm like, God, I'm tired. You know, Stephen talked about that, praying honestly, humbly, right? And that's part of the journey. Like everything that I said, like adversity is a gift. That's another mindset thing that I've lived it, but two, I have to remind myself when I go through seasons like I'm going through right now, where I don't have an exact answer as to why I have abundance right now and blessings on the other end of a very hard season that you guys just heard that I didn't have abundance. I got it, but why am I feeling like I'm going through another season again of my soul feeling like a dry desert? I don't know. I'm praying through that, but I guarantee you, every single time I've gone through it, God has shown me great things. And like Stephen said, on the other end is rocket ship. Like I've known God's heart and his basic ways enough over the last 15 years of my life that I trust the process. I know he's going to not just get me through the other side, but he's going to he's going to help me thrive. Right. And so to simplify all that, mindset, get as low as I can, as fast as I can, be honest and humble with God. Last night I was like, God, I'm feeling feelings of anger. Honestly, I don't know where they're coming from. I'm feeling feelings of depression. I'm feeling feelings of, you know, and I just went on and I just named them out loud. And so for me, I like my car. I love driving because I could think and pray honestly and out comfortably with God. So that's what I do. Did that help? Did that help, Tina? I lost her. She's like, no, it didn't help. Delete. Unfollow.
I think her phone
Anyways.
died because she mentioned she was charging it. So that's unfortunate. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anyone else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Just kind of commenting on that, on, you know, what Tina shared, because it'll be in the recording later. So I'm sure she'll get to see that as well. You know, I think that on the days where you really don't want to do it, there's a couple different strategies. I think one is, you know, there's a lot of people focus on hard work, and I think that's important, right? Obviously you got to work hard, like nothing comes without hard work. I also think it's a little bit smart to focus on habits. Habits are what you unconsciously do. And so 4 or 5 years ago, I tried to stop focusing on do more, be more, have more. I'm like, dude, I don't want to be anymore. I just want to be myself. Like, I'm tired of trying to be more, right? And so I focused from that on to create better habits, right? Like, how can I do things better automatically? And so one of the things that helps me is like, I start really small with habits. You know, if it's going to the gym, I start, you know, I'm not going to go from, you know, being 300 pounds overweight to getting a personal trainer. Like, that's ridiculous. You should like start walking. And then from there, you should start jogging. And then from there, you should start running. And then you should go to the gym and get a trainer and do all that. Like, quit setting the bar so high for yourself. And I think that that's my second tip, is that I give myself grace. I give myself permission to have those days where, man, I just don't feel like doing anything today. And because my habits have built up so much capital for me, life doesn't fall apart if I miss a day or two. And I think that, you know, for me, I think that's tied a lot to my financial habits, because I set my life up in a way where, you know, I didn't go out and buy the fancy car. I didn't go out and buy the fancy clothes and try to impress the Jonases and be better than everyone. You know, so it's like, if I take a day off, I'm not hurting anyone. Like, I'm just, you know, pausing for a second. And you want to be a human being, not a human doing. And so if you are finding that you're continuously like feeling anxious and overwhelmed and like just not feeling it, you know, your strategy is you're probably setting the bar way too high for yourself. You need to walk. And, you know, if you say, hey, I'm going to make 3 hours of calls today, and you don't make 3 hours of calls, you're going to feel depressed. So you know what you should do? You should make 1 call tomorrow. And so shorten the goals for yourself. Give yourself a smaller milestone, hit that milestone, and then you'll build momentum and confidence, and that will get you back on track. So cool. All right. Well, we have gone over on time. We want to thank you everyone for really joining us today. We hope that you saw the heart and God's love behind this. So we appreciate you guys. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week on Friday's call, and hope everyone has a blessed weekend.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Duarte. Thanks for sharing that book, bro. I'll check it out. Happy Friday, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.